Thank you very much for staying and welcome back to the marketplace. Now to our first story. The Monetary Policy Committee MPC of the Bank of Ghana has begun meeting to review the health of the economy. The engagement, which started yesterday, will see members of the committee presented with hard numbers from all the various sectors of the economy. But how crucial is the meeting as we get into the election season, and what are the issues that will be top of the agenda? George Wiafe has more.
Seven-member committee, which is chaired by the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Abdul Nasir Issaku, have been giving reports covering the performance of the various sectors of the economy, as well as financial and the monetary sector. There will be some presentations to members over the next 2 days. All these are aimed at helping them take a decision this Friday whether they should vote for the policy rate to be reviewed or kept unchanged. The rate, which was held at 26% at their last meeting in September this year. Some of the issues that will top the agenda include how to deal with the rising loan defaults in the banking sector, which the Bank of Ghana has put at a little over 6 billion Ghana cedis as of September this year. Dealing with the recent sustained depreciation of the Ghana cedi on the forex market. And for many economists, how to ensure that the Bank of Ghana is not caught in the trap of financing government as we get into the election season. The meeting, which will end this Friday with a press conference next Monday, would give Ghanaians an idea how the economy has performed over the last 3 months, the country's international reserves. Many will also be looking forward to the Bank of Ghana's report on the public debt, which reached 110 billion Ghana cedis as of July this year. Businesses would also be watching the Bank of Ghana's decision on the policy rate. This is because an increase will obviously impact on the cost of credit for firms and even individuals that are currently servicing loans.
Meanwhile, industry is expecting the Bank of Ghana to be strategic in dealing with the cedi's sustained depreciation on the forex market. The local currency, which has been fairly stable over the past months, trading around 3 Ghana cedis 90 pesos, has now crossed the 4 Ghana cedi mark. This has reignited fears among businesses that we could be getting into an era of serious depreciation. Now, President of the Association, James Asaria J., however, says it is early days yet for the Bank of Ghana to take any drastic action.
Industry is not really worried about changes in probably the value of the cedi, but more importantly, predictability. If we know that in the next 6 months, the cedi is going to be at 4, or let's say 4.1. You can plan with it. But where you see on daily basis depreciation or changes in the value of the cedi, then that is what is a worrying situation. So we are more interested as business operators on the predictability. Can I plan in the next 6 months? Can I plan the next year about how the dynamics in terms of the cedi, will play out? And hence, we think that, yes, we're looking forward to this sustained sort of stability in the currency.
When you look at the forex market, even the commercial banks, over the last 2 weeks, there have been some consistent decline. And that's whether you are worried, because we have crossed the September mark, which many people would have thought that we're bringing in goods for Christmas.
Yes.
But some are saying that, well, we know you people would want to restock for next year. And if it's going this way, are we more challenges to come?
Well, let's also be mindful that we are in an election period. The election is very close. The economy has not behaved, as we used to know in election years. So fairly, there had been some successes chalked here. And hence, let's wait and see what the currency holds for us. But I think it's done fairly well in the year. And we hope that in the next couple of months to end the year, we are really going to see a robust cedi.
Away from the financial sector, now the Petroleum Commission is expecting Ghanaian businesses to reposition and take advantage of new opportunities in the oil and gas sector. The Commission says it has instituted adequate measures to further enhance local content and participation within the industry. According to the CEO of the Commission, Theophilus Ehring, more strategies are being implemented to maximize the benefits of Ghanaians, especially with 2 more fields coming on stream. Now, speaking with Joy Business at the just-ended local content conference and exhibition, he emphasized that it is up to local businesses to exploit the new prospects.
Our job in the Petroleum Commission is to develop local content in the upstream petroleum industry. Now, that involves a lot. We have a local content participation LI, and what it seeks to do is to give, at the level of regulations, what we need to do in the various sectors. Our job as a Petroleum Commission is to be able to develop programs and strategies to ensure that in each of the segments of the industry, this is achieved. One of the areas is insurance. Our view has always been that we should not measure our success from how many barrels of crude oil we produce. We must look at it from the standpoint of in-country value addition. And one of the areas is insurance. So currently, after the successful development and launch of the upstream guidelines for placing insurance, what it now means is that if you have to place insurance for the upstream industry, you must first put it in what we call the GOGIP, the Ghana Oil and Gas Insurance Pool. And then the local insurance industry will make their own assessment and find out what portions of those business they can take. And it is the remainder that they give to the external insurance business.
So it would now be mandatory to look within
it. Yes, it is. That's what it is at the moment. What we need to do is to improve the financial capacity of the insurance companies so that they can take increasingly bigger portions of the business that comes up.
Meanwhile, some banks are affirming their commitment to supporting small and medium-scale enterprises in the oil and gas sector with financing. One of them is HFC Bank. Managing Director of the bank, Robert Luhand, has been speaking with Joy Business.
Any SME who has a contract with a multinational corporation, or who has a contract to provide services in the oil and gas sector, we are prepared to look at them and provide them financing to be able to execute the contract. A lot of times that a lot of these SME companies are not able to participate as much as they would like to in the oil and gas sector because of the absence of financing. That's an issue that we have heard over and over and over again. And really my value proposition is that I am prepared to do it. And therefore I am making myself available to look at companies who have contracts to be able to help them financing. And these could be contracts as simple as logistic contracts, contracts to provide uniforms, contracts to provide transportation. There are a number of services. As a matter of fact, over 80% of the services that are required in the upstream sector are contracted out. And that is where we think that the local content laws will allow for people, local individuals, to participate in. And we are prepared to work with those individuals in ensuring that they have the financing required to make it happen.
Robert Lehand is the MD for HFC Bank. Now, away from that, the planned strike by the Public Sector Workers Union, slated for today, Tuesday, the 15th of November, has been put off for 24 hours to allow the leaders to deliberate over recent attempts to address their grievances. The coalition of 12 unions, including teachers, civil servants, doctors and nurses, threatened to strike over what it describes as delays by government to transfer a part of its members' monthly contributions into a private account to be determined by them. Now, NAGRAT President Christian Adepoku, in an interview with Joy News, says though they have seen some letters from the National Pensions Regulatory Commission, NPRA, directing the Controller and Accountant General to pay the contributions to their private fund managers, they are still not convinced.
The 12 labor unions include the Ghana Medical Association, NAGRAT, CLOSAG, TEWU and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers embarked on strike over the same issue in October 2014. Government, however, dragged the unions to court. Both parties later agreed on an out-of-court settlement, which was later accepted by the High Court. By the ruling, which is effective April 1, 2016, government is supposed to transfer 5% Tier 2 monthly deduction directly to custodian banks and also ensure that the National Pension Regulatory Authority transfer funds currently being held in the Temporary Pension Fund account at the Bank of Ghana. The unions say they are yet to see government implement any of those decisions. The union served notice earlier they will embark on strike from Tuesday, November 15. President of NAGRAT, Christian Adaipoku, says though they have made some headway with negotiations, they will still not rescind their decision. He explains why.
We have seen letters that have been written by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority asking controller not to pay any money to their account again, but redirect everything to our custodial account. We have also seen a letter that they have written to the fund administrators asking them to take over the administration of the funds to make sure that they run. But it's not enough yet.
Not enough. With these letters you are seeing, aren't you satisfied?
Not at all. We expect to see a letter from Ministry of Finance. That is the final authority that can instruct Controller and Accountant General's Department. We expect to see that instruction. And we also expect to meet and discuss how they are going to transfer the money already collected, and which is in the TPFA, so that we can have a holistic management of the scheme. The unions have decided to meet on the 16th, because the deadline is 15th. Exactly. So on the 16th, we are going to meet to assess the situation. And if it merits that we call for the strike as we have planned, we will go ahead with it. Tomorrow is the deadline to see that the first tranche is paid. And tomorrow is 15th. So by close of day tomorrow, we expect that the first tranche is paid into the account. That's the first thing. But that is not the end of the dispute.
So if you have this first tranche paid by tomorrow, what is the next step? Still,
the outstanding issues are still there. And so we have indicated clearly that we will meet on the 16th, that is a day after the deadline, to assess the entire situation and see the way forward. But let me say that we are not yet satisfied yet. We are not yet satisfied because we have not received what we really wanted.
The unions are expected to meet later Tuesday to discuss the way forward.
All right, so we'll bring you developments of the unions meeting later in our subsequent bulletins. But let's now return back to the oil and gas industry. And the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, is advocating government to seriously consider restoring its hedging program in order to cushion the country against the impact of oil price shocks on the state's purse. Other energy think tanks urged the government to go back to its hedging program following the collapse of crude oil prices on the world market. Now, according to PIAC, market conditions are right for government to take a cue from other oil operators to lock in the price of crude to help mitigate the impacts of the volatility of crude oil prices on the world market. Now, joining us for some more insight into this is petroleum economist Dr. John Gachi. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon.
Now, first of all, would you give us some education of exactly what the concept of hedging is?
Hedging is just about risk management. In this case, there is a possibility of prices going in a direction which is not in the interest of a party, in this case, our country. So we take a position now that will lock in the price, for which if there is any volatility in the future, we will not be adversely affected. So it is about protection of our position in the oil transaction.
Now, very well. Now, do you side with the Public Interest and Accountability Committee for the country to return back to its hedging program?
Well, I think the call is not bad, but what is important is that those who are at the forefront of the hedging policy ought to study the market very well, because hedging is good, but it cannot be undertaken in a particular context, especially when volatility is so sharp and very difficult to predict in any way. Then it means it becomes very difficult to deploy the tool of hedging to protect our position. Just like what happened in 2015, 2016, you realize that the price expectation was such that price actually collapsed in the market. So that makes it very difficult for even experienced oil-producing country and entities to hedge their positions in the market. So yes, the call is very important. That ought to be studied, but we can only go back to hedging when the margin of volatility is not actually the way it was around 2015.
Now, do you see the margin of volatility now as appropriate? Because we know that the OPEC and OPEC members and other oil-producing countries are trying to cut down on supply to be able to force prices up. And you think that this is the right time to go into hedging? What if prices shoot up right after going into hedging?
Well, that is what you should study very well before you go into it. You should look at the way the major players in the market are behaving, what they are calling for, whether those decisions are likely to increase prices further, and what you want to benefit from in the movement of prices. Is it because you want to gain more in terms of revenue, or you want to benefit in terms of lower prices for your downstream? If you put all these things together, that should guide the country as to whether we should enter into some hedging agreement now. So it depends on how the major players continue to behave. About 3 weeks ago, the position of OPEC was different from the position that they are taking now. Yeah. So as to whether we'll be able to study and predict the direction of thought of these major players in the market, that depends on those who are at the forefront of managing the hedging policy of the country.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. John Gachi, for those
Thank you, too.
Dr. John Gachi is a petroleum economist. You're still on the market, please. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Thanks for staying and welcome back. Now, Isoko Ghana has started a process to register smallholder farmers onto its new mobile commerce solution that aims to provide farmers with access to financial services, quality inputs, and agronomic information. The mobile commerce solution, dubbed FASIBA, is a virtual marketplace that allows farmers to save and borrow towards the purchase of discounted agri inputs like fertilizer, seeds, and pesticides through a mobile wallet. Now, correspondent Nesta Kafri Adjuma comes through with this report after witnessing the launch of the program at Foikrum near Techima in the Bonahafo region.
Smallholder farmers in Ghana continue to face a variety of challenges in agricultural production. A recent study conducted by the USAID-funded Advance program reveals that only 7% of farmers in northern Ghana use certified seeds, while 37.53% use improved but not certified seeds. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, fertilizer usage among farmers across Ghana is among the lowest in the world. Isoko Ghana, through its project FASIBA, will ensure increased usage of fertilizers and other inputs among smallholder farmers to increase productivity and reduce food insecurity as well as poverty. FASIBA will also enable businesses like input suppliers, financial institutions, and mobile operators to gain better visibility into what is happening on the farm and to know their customers. Managing Director of Isoko Ghana, Daniel Asariche, stated that FASIBA will be running on pilot basis in 6 districts of the Ashanti, Bono-Ahafo, Northern, and Volta regions.
What we've seen working with these farmers, they have a fundamental challenge, which is access to finance, and then to an extension, access to farm inputs. Normally, a farmer will harvest his crops between the months of November, December, January. But the next farming season, which is May and June, this farmer will not have any other money to buy farm inputs. Now, how do I assist this farmer to be able to have money to be able to buy farm inputs at the time that he needs the input most? So now, as a SOCO, what we've designed for our partners to actually design a program that allows a farmer to be able to put some money aside and use that money to buy farm inputs at the time that the inputs are really needed in the farm. So the way it works is that you call the program a mobile commerce solution, which is locally dubbed as FASIBA. FASIBA works in this way. A farmer harvests his crops in November or December. He will then be encouraged to have, first of all, if he doesn't have a mobile money account, this farmer will be asked to register for mobile money either with Vodafone, MTN, Airtel, or Tigo. Once the mobile money account is set up, this farmer will be then encouraged to put in money in small quantities, say every week, every 2 weeks, or every month. Let's say the farmer says, I need 1,000 Ghana cedis to buy input for the next farming season. Now, you tell this farmer, okay, for you to be able to have 1,000 Ghana cedis by November of next year, you need to be able to save or put away 50 cedis every week. This farmer will just walk to the nearest mobile money merchant, put this money into his mobile wallet. By the time that savings accumulate to the 1,000 Ghana cedis, together with our input partner, all that orders will be aggregated, and then you make an order to input dealer like Wenko, that is the key partner to this particular program. And the Wenko will deliver this input to the farmers at their community.
FASIBA is expected to reach about 81,000 smallholder farmers within the 2 years of piloting, after which the project will be scaled up to cover other parts of Ghana.
Meanwhile, some stakeholders in the agri sector are urging women to explore other areas in the sector to enable them come out of the poverty bracket. Speaking in an interview with Joy Business, Country Director of Agri Impact Consult, Juliana Asante-Date, said with the evolution of agricultural technology, there are many more areas women can explore to enhance their crop production in the male-dominated sector.
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, if the world's women farmers had the same access to resources as men, 150 million people could be lifted out of poverty. Although female farmers are said to produce between 50% and 70% of food crops, they earn less than 10% of its income and have limited access to land. Speaking in an interview with Joy Business, Country Director of Agri Impact Consult, Juliana Asante-Date, urged women to look into the many other aspects of the agricultural value chain.
One of the key challenges is access to resources. Most of the women that we come across are not business owners. They tend to be workers, laborers on the farm, but they don't actually own the business. Talk about access to land is a challenge, access to finance, access to technical service. Illiteracy rate tends to be higher for women than for men. They even don't take advantage of most of the trainings that are offered by NGOs and by support service providers. So women generally don't have access to the resources that are required to help them turn around their business. So what we are trying to do is to get them to shift their focus to see more of the business opportunities in agri.
Speaking on technology in agriculture, Juliana Asante-Date emphasized the need for farmers to utilize greenhouse production to increase productivity.
Most of the agri that we practice in Ghana is one smallholder. Over 70 to 80% of our production comes from smallholder farmers, and the smallholder farmers tend to use very rudimentary practices and tools. So we're still using hoe, cutlasses. Increasingly, you can see tractor services is becoming popular. Our use of improved seeds, which is another technology that is very important to agri, is still quite low. We are doing around 11% of certified seeds. We are still relying on farmer-safe seeds, and these seeds tend to lower the yields that you can get from a crop. So when you talk about agricultural technology, I would say that we are still at a very basic level.
And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Many thanks for your company and for joining me. Make a date again, same time tomorrow, for another interesting development in the world of business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.